You have 2 assignments that has to be submitted. Now, I said without narrative. We need only the point. We don't need the narratives.
Okay.
Now, I would like to talk about the leader and its commitment. Leader and his commitment, or leader and her commitment. We have touched intentionally few things about spiritual formation for leadership. We have done some of these exercises mainly for leadership foundation formation. And yesterday, from the examples of Nehemiah, we said important thing about leader is about the leader and his prayer life, leader and his family, leader and his reading habit, all those things we talk about, which in fact I would like to talk in very much in detail, but we are not going to do that. So today I would like to come back to from spiritual formation to leadership foundation formation. And at the third stage, I would like to come to leadership, leader and his commitment, leader and her commitment, that we are going to talk today. I just want you to see this on the slide. Commitment, what does it mean? When people talk about commitment, Christian commitment, you just keep in your mind, what thought come to you first? Commitment, oftentimes people talk. And what do you understand? How do you understand what we call Christian commitment? Is something that we are going to talk about today. And later on, maybe what types of commitments are there in the Bible? Or how many levels of Christian commitment are there in the Bible? These are the things I like to talk with you today. So look into your screen. I have put it here. Commitment means making sacrifices. And this will be the first one. Then later on, we will also talk about that commitment is not only sacrifice. I took 2 Bible portions, which are the friends actually. You'll be knowing the Bible verses. Keep note of that. So the first slide and the first point is, sometimes saying yes to God means that we have to say no to a lot of other things which appeal to us. That is very, very important point. Keep that in mind. Okay. The first point that I have put here is, sometimes saying yes to God means that we have to say no to a lot of other things which appeal to us. So we'll be talking about, based on these Bible passages that I have put it here. When we say yes to God, there are still so many other things which are very much appealing to us, okay, which I still wanted to do, which I still wanted to enjoy, in which I still wanted to be part of it. But once we say yes to God, we have to say no to a lot of other things which are so appealing, which with which we are very much comfortable. That is the first point I'd like to tell you when we talk about commitment. You got my point? Do you understand me?
Yes, sir.
This is very, very important. People, I have seen preachers for calling making altar calls, and he asked God, the people to commit their lives to God. Yes, people are very obedient in some places. If you make an altar call, yes, definitely people will come. They just said, yes, I commit myself to the Lord. But as a leader, what you need to know is that when you say yes to God, that you're going to follow Him, you have to be ready to say no to many other things in your life. And most of those things will be more appealing than saying yes to God. Those things which are more appealing will become an obstacle sometime, and they'll become, a temptation or a testing ground for you. So when we talk about commitment to God, leaders should know that they have to say no to so many things. That's why, we said, oh, the pastor is very worldly person. Oh, that leader, the church leader, he loves money so much. Oh, that guy, he's a Christian leader, but he's doing contract and all this. No. See? So many other things which are appealing are still around you. And then you should be willing to say no, because you have always said yes to God. So this is what you have to tell your people when you become a pastors or when you become a leader. Telling them that just saying yes doesn't mean that you are committed, but you should be willing to say at the same time no to all those appealing things which are around you. Okay. Then point number 2 is, people can make the mistake of thinking that our faith restricts our freedom when it actually fosters it. Jesus' sacrifice frees us to pursue a relationship with God. The problem with young people, you'll be knowing as you move around and as you become pastor or a leader. Many of us think that if I commit my life to Jesus Christ, there are so many restrictions. Many young people young women and young men, they say, oh, I want to be a good Christian, but there are so many restrictions. It is a lot of burden. Okay. So people somehow feel that being committed to God or being committed Christian is always a burden. But here it says, Jesus' sacrifice frees us to pursue relationship with God. We have a freedom of pursuing a relationship with God. That is something which is very, very important. You got my point, no? So there is no such thing as, there is no such thing as restriction of our freedom. Rather, we become free from sin, and our sacrifice always free us to pursue a relationship with God. That is the second point I would like to put. The third point, what does it mean by commitment? Is Jesus said to his disciples, whoever wants to be my disciples must deny themselves and take up their cross and follow me. For whoever wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will find it. This is exactly the opposite of the world system. When you save life, there is no way you can lose. But when you save your life at the expense of the ministry or the commitment that you have given, you are losing your relationship with Jesus Christ. You are losing your power. You are losing, that sweet fellowship that you have. So here he said, for who wants to save their life will lose it. But whoever loses their life for me will find it. That is the difference in a Christian commitment. Okay. Now let us continue to go. So, commitment is about trusting God. We are giving our life to somebody we trust. So, knowing God very well is very, very important. Knowing God as God is very important. Unless I know the person, how can I trust him? Unless I know that God, how can I trust him? How can a woman marry a man she does not know? How can a woman marry a guy whom she cannot trust, to give her life? Likewise, how can a guy give his life for a woman, somebody whom he did not know properly? So it is about trusting God. Commitment is the pledge that we make to God in response to the many promises that he has made to us. Okay. God, it is our response to God with what he had promised to us. But in order to truly commit to him, we have to believe that he will deliver on his promises. That is about trusting. We cannot just commit our lives. People wanted, many people are happy when they preach and many people committed their life. And after a month or two, people will go back to their old life, not knowing, not trusting the God that they, to whom they have committed their life. Psalm 37 verse 5 talks about committing our ways to the Lord. Trust in him and he will do this. It is trust, commitment, and is connected with trust of one person and one God. That is Christian commitment. Let's take some more example. See, it requires us to love. Generally speaking, the more we love someone, the more committed we tend to be with them. Our openness to committing to God is encouraged by our deep love that we have for him. Let's see these Bible verses from Old Testament, 1 Kings chapter 6 verse 61. And may your hearts be fully committed to the Lord our God, to live by his decrees and obey his commands as at this time. See, that is commitment. And Deuteronomy 6:5 says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your strength. In one of the meetings that I had attended for young leaders, there are many young people who are not yet married. I asked them, is it possible to love somebody with all our hearts, with all our souls, and with all our strength? They believe they can love somebody like that. But when it comes to God, it is always a challenge for them. When a boy is in love with a girl, he loves wholeheartedly. But when we are falling in love with God, we cannot fall in love with God wholeheartedly. That is not but the problem. In Matthew 22:37-38, it says, Jesus replied and said, love the Lord your God with all your heart, with all your soul, and with all your mind. This is the first and the greatest commandment. We tend to fail often because we fail to love God as we ought to love him. Okay? Our commitment sometimes will become very shallow because we tend to forget to love him. When Jesus encountered Peter and the disciples on the seashore after his resurrection, what did God ask Peter? Can you tell me? Tell me, some of you. What did God ask Peter? John chapter 20, 21, right? 20:15.
Do you love me? He asked.
Yes. Then what did he say?
Peter said, yes, I love you.
Yeah. You know, when Jesus talked to him, he was actually using verb. Do you agapao me? Okay, agape will be noun, agapao is verb. Do you truly love me at the cost of your life? Then Peter had answered saying, I love you. Okay, the English translation cannot be very, it cannot simplify, but in many languages, it is very beautifully, translated. Jesus asked him, do you agapao me? Peter said, yes, I love you. When the level of our love to God and his love is at that level, then there is a problem. He said, do you love me more than this? Very meekly, he said, I love you. I love you as a friend. I do not love you at the cost of my life. See, that is love. Then Jesus asked him again, forget about your friends. Just between you and me. Do you love me? See? Simon, son of Jonas, do you truly love me? He still said, I love you. The third time when Jesus asked him, he said, do you really, truly love me? Do you truly love me as a friend? Then he said, Lord, you know everything. And you know that I love you. I love you as a friend. That's how our relationship with Jesus is there. It requires us to love God. We said first we should know God, we should trust him, then it requires love. Okay. Now, how many levels of, how many types of commitment do you think will be there in the Bible? Can you tell me? Or what are the types of Christian commitment that you have read about or that you have heard about? Any volunteer? What types of commitments are there? How many commitments, levels of commitment or types of commitments are there?
Yes, sir. Can I say something about this
Yes.
commitment? Can you hear me, sir?
A point or two. Yes, I can hear you.
Yeah, according to the proper concept of the Word of God that which we have, the concept of commitment is most about within the context of an agreement between God and humans. And another second point of the commitment is that it's the binding agent for the whole life as a Christian. It's the core of a meaningful relationship with God and with our fellow human beings. These are the two strong commitments that we must have. And another thing, third one is that we have certain elements that commitment between God and human persons or between people within our Christian community as well as other group of people in this world.
Any other volunteers? How many types of commitment have you come across or have you heard about it? a Christian commitment. It is between you and God. Any other volunteers?
Maybe around
Commit,
Yes, somebody is trying to speak. Come on.
to summarize to be funny.
Okay, Simla, you speak.
You see, I'm not very sure, sir.
Not very sure.
Can I add one more, that commitment to Christian marriage?
Mm-hmm. Commitment to?
Christian marriage in our Christian community.
Mm-hmm.
And commitment is what we surrender ourselves in order to serve the Lord.
Yes. Now, when we were in Bangalore, I think that was early 80s, our teacher told us that there are 3 levels of Christian commitment. And I thought that was very beautiful. The 3 levels that he had told us on that morning and that training was, number 1, he said, convenient commitment. Okay, if you want, you can note it down with some Bible passages. Then number 2, conflicting commitment. Number 3, conflict.
The second.
Conflicting. Okay, conflict. CONFLICTING. Conflicting commitment or cover up. You can say either one. The third one he told us. The third one he said was costly commitment. So we are so happy about that. 3 types of commitments. Then later on, as I travel around and also as I started, involving in preaching, teaching ministry, I found out that there are 4 levels of commitment. I thought whether I should send that the 4th one I found out to him. There was, more than 10 years past. Then I thought I should not send him. I regret that I should send him because he was a fantastic teacher, highly educated, who read a lot of books, and I did not give him, and I regret that now. As I go on and read on some books, I found out several other levels of commitment, and also through the Bible. So as we are doing formation of, leaders' commitment to God. Now we are forming from spiritual formation to leadership formation, now to leaders' commitment formation. I would like to tell you those information, they are very in detail. You may not necessarily find this, in a book because they'll not give that much of information. So the first one, the first commitment in the Bible that we saw is emotional commitment. Some people will call it crowd commitment. Okay. When there is a big crowd, people normally become very excited, super excited. Okay. In assemblies and crusade and camps, people become very excited, very emotional, and they'll commit more than what actually they can do. They'll commit even more than what they they can pay. That was found in Matthew 26. When Jesus and the disciple had, completed the, what do you call it, the Last Supper, they sang song and they came out. And Jesus said, tonight every one of you will be offended because of me. Then Peter said, I'm not going, Peter, okay, is not going to offend you. Jesus said, as it was written, I'll strike the shepherd and the sheep will scatter. Every one of you will be offended, scattered tonight because of me. Then he said, even if others follow you right after Holy Communion, the Last Supper, Peter, is not going to to offend you. I'll not leave you. Then Jesus said, Peter, I tell you the truth. Tonight before the cock crows, you'll deny me 3 times. He said, even if I have to die, I'll follow you. Every one of them said. The Bible verses are here. So, especially among human beings and tribals, very emotional people, you can create an emotional sympathy. Okay? As a pastor, you can really create a very excitement and, influencing emotion. You can make people weep and you can let the crowd excited. This thing happen when the crowd are excited, the mob are excited, emotional commitment is there always. Especially like revival, you will be filled with a lot of, emotion. The problem is, I do not have time to talk about the 3 trend bogies. Many believers in Northeast India are led by feeling. Our trend engine is feeling. Okay? Not the word, not the faith, not by faith. That is very, very important. So I put it here. I could not give you the picture now. We should be led, our faith and commitment should be led by the word of God. Then by having faith in that word, only emotion will become the third one. But for us, it is the other way around. Emotion become the engine. Faith is the the second bogie, third the word bogie. That's why there are so many cults, so many denominations coming up. So the first point I'd like to tell you, as we try to form our level of commitment. Many commitments are made based on emotion, and these are always, risky, and that will not last. Okay.
Yes.
Then we go to the second one. There is a book, Intellectual Commitment. I was trying to find out where I could not find out. Very good book on intellectual commitment. I take hold of this book while I was in Shillong as the NACOD CEO. Some people are so intelligent, looking at Jesus, what he can do, what power he possessed, what are, the benefit that I could derive from him if I'm with him. True intelligence, through the brain, people wanted to be part of Jesus' ministry. in one of the interview that I have conducted, very, very highly educated young men came and interviewed with us. And finally, when I asked him, why do you actually want to be in a Christian ministry? He said, many young people who are less educated than me work in the church and they go to USA. He said, I said, then? He said, I finished my university course. I finished this, and I also wanted to go to US. One of my aim in life is to live in USA. That's why I apply in this big organization, he said. Then my director said, those days, I have my boss. Did you take that guy? Everything is very good, the paper, everything he's writing. He said, no, sir, I did not take him. He said, why? And I said, no, his purpose of serving God through Christian organization is ultimately to go to USA and live in USA, I said. So he also smiled, you know. Okay, you did very good job, he told me. See, that lawyer in Matthew chapter 8, verse 19 and 20, and also some scribe, you know, who are, when they look at the ministry of Jesus, you know, they say, teacher, I will follow you wherever you go. Very, very intelligent people, intellectual people. When Reverend Dr. Van Ngaka, many of you will not be knowing, one of the top 10 world preacher, M.Th, who was invited to be associate evangelist by the Billy Graham Association. 6 feet tall, handsome, just like an American. Doesn't look like a missile. You know, he said, when I joined the ministry, after university degree, when I go for BD in Australia, many of my classmates, you know, who are already IAS at the time, they said, he must have chosen to study BD again after MA because maybe he'll go to America and get some foreign fund. You know, this is the way intellectual people will look at. So Dr. Vandal told me, and they don't know how much he suffered. So this guy says, looking at Jesus' ministry, teacher, I'll follow you wherever you go. This unfortunate guy in Mark, you know, chapter 10, verse 17, good teacher, what did I do to inherit eternal life? They wanted to derive something, you know, if they come and follow Jesus, they will get something, some benefit. This guy was looking for eternal life. Actually, you know, we'll be studying this later on if we have time. So, these people, intellectual committed people, attempt to follow Jesus Christ without sacrifice, looking into the benefit, and attempt to maintain a status quo. You are very much livable at home. Then, you know, you have everything at home, the comfort of everything. When you wanted to maintain that status without changing, but still wanting to follow Jesus Christ, that is intellectual commitment. People wanted for a job, people wanted for position, you know, just to get a peaceful mind or salvation, whatever it is. Nowadays, you'll see that when you go to the church, almost all leadership and important committees are headed by rich people, high government officials. None of them are pastors. In two associations, very big association, even pastoral committee chairman were laymen. So I told them point blank, this is not right. How can a non-person, a non-ordained person, be chairman in the pastoral committee? I say, just to create an enemy, you know. So I was successful in creating some enemies. Many people would like to follow Jesus because of intellectual commitment. We understand, right?
Yes, sir.
Let's move to, so this is number 2, right?
Yes.
Okay, now number 3. There are people who are very, very committed, but they are very calculative. Their way of commitment is calculative.
Yes.
See, you know who were Ananias and Sapphira, right?
Yes. Yes.
Sapphira means beautiful, and her name is beautiful. She must be very beautiful woman also. So she must have told, you know, women are normally, you know, the one who will pinch the husband. So she must have said, see, our neighbors has got Maruti car, they have SUV, they have Paka building, everything, plot of land, so many bike for children. And Barnabas had given this much, and everyone really appreciated it. Let us share it. Keep half of it for our own. Give the other half to God's ministry. Oh, Ananias was so happy, maybe. He was so excited. No? So people are calculative in order to do the ministry. When they saw people really doing it, they also wanted to have that. But they calculate. And it is a failure. And 2 Kings chapter 5, verse 20 to 27, this is very, very important. I cannot, you know, tell you all these things. I'll just go. Then Demas, Paul talked to Timothy, you know, in Timothy chapter 2 also. Verse, you know, chapter 2 Timothy chapter 4, verse 10 also. People left when they calculated and, you know, things are not going to be all right. So when we talk about commitment, I'm very much tempted to talk about finishing well, okay, finishing strong. You can see in the Bible that even some of the most, you know, famous Bible characters, they fell and they finished very bad. That is very, very dangerous. Something happened somewhere. You know, this is where people calculate, and only then, you know, if the amount of things that they are going to pay, sacrifice, and the amount of things that they are going to get, the benefit they're going to get, means what? Then, you know, if this is the case, then I'll come. I have seen some friends who are very, very intelligent, and when you know, I was joining the Christian ministry, and salary was going to be very bad. My wife has to leave her job, and we have to go, both of us. Then one man from South had written a very beautiful budget. House rent this much, food and vegetable this much per month, milk and sugar this much per month, conveyance this much per month, children education at least to this much. When he calculated, you know, there was no way people like us can join the, you know, that type of, you know, with that type of benefit. So he said, it's not for him. When we calculate and believe that this is going to benefit us, our calculation will be always failed. Then there'll be disappointment.
Yes.
That's why the number 1 we said was knowing God, then trusting God. You should remember number 1. Not on what you calculate. So in Peter is the spokesperson. He said in Matthew 19:27. Then Peter answered and said to him, "See, we have left all and followed you. Therefore, what shall we have?" These things come to us oftentimes. We have sacrificed everything. What will come to us? Before Dr. C.L. Rema, who was the founder of Baptist Christian Hospital in Tezpur, he was the biggest district DC in Assam at that time, Upper Assam DC. He was an IAS officer. When God called him, he resigned. And before he died, I was able to pay a visit to him. About 4 or 5 years ago, I had gone to Tezpur, where he was the administrator of the Tezpur Baptist Hospital. That was after more than 40 years of he staying as a retired IS, resigned IS officer. His quarter was the biggest one. They put it as a guest house and they let me stay there, give me a lot of good blanket and all that. I enjoy it. But when I look at the type of job he was doing, even 40 years have passed, if I am not very clear about God's call, I will not handle that hospital. You see? That is the level of people's commitment. Peter said, "See, I follow you like this." We left everything. What do we get? If we become calculative, there are times you will be calculative, my friends, young friends. Once you journey on, things will not be very smooth. Always. The honeymoon is going to end very soon. Okay? So once people started that calculative thought and started having calculative commitment level only, there is always chaos, problem in the lives of people. This is very, very important. People calculate. But when Jesus called us, how we have to calculate is this. Food cost for family is this much, house rent this much, children education this much, and convenience allowance this much, clothing this much. Then you add it, when the need is more than what your salary is, there you see miracle. All those lacking, those areas where you are lacking, is the area where miracle is going to come. You get my point?
Yes.
That is extremely important. If I follow Jesus Christ just because I'll calculate everything and I can leave it. Yeah, I can even save it. That is not what Jesus wanted. We have already started. We have already said that in the beginning, the first slide. So calculative commitment is very, very dangerous. This is the third one or the fourth one?
Third one, sir.
Third one,
Third
right?
one. Yeah.
Now let's go to very, very interesting commitment. See, convenient commitment. This is very, very interesting. The other day when we talk about Abraham's model, I showed you that diagram. When people don't want to go out of their circle of convenient comfort zone, that is a problem. Now there are people who feel very committed, who look very committed because that is convenient for them. You'll see many, deacons, hardworking people, very, very hardworking people. You look at them and no complaint. Okay? But why are they so happy and committed? That is because it is convenient for them. Okay? I am an elder. I have my chicken farm in my own village. I have my paddy field. I have my vegetable field. And I am headmaster of the village school. I don't need to go out. I can serve God here in my village as a deacon member. Very, very convenient. Many people are committed just because they are convenient, comfortable. That is very bad. People don't want to go out of their comfort zone. They serve God because that is convenient for them. Oh, he's a village headmaster, school teacher, and he is the elder of the church and very rich. Oh, very good name. That is convenient. I'll tell you an example. Once I was traveling from Churchandpur to Imphal by bus many years ago. You know, I was sitting in the first row. Just in front of me was the door in the front. Every time people coming in and going out, those days there was no sumo service, there are no other mode of transport. Bus was all line bus, ekdam full all the time. So what happened was, I was not sitting in the window side. I was sitting in the aisle side. So all those people who are standing there, you know, will be putting their weight on me, and I'm carrying part of those people. Very tiring. Then somewhere in Moirang, a very young woman with a very cute child of maybe about less than a year, holding an apple, came in, tried to enter the door. And you know what came to my mind? Is this lady with a young baby came in, and if she entered the door of the bus, she will not be able to move inside. And I'm still young and sitting, and this lady with a child, that will be terrible, I say. My thought was very fast, you know. So I said, hey, Itema, sister, there is no seat. He said, go to the back side, I said. The conductor was very good, you know. He said, no, don't go to the back. You will not be able to enter. Somehow I'll push you in, he said. And he pushed in that, you know, young woman with a child in her hand. And they you know what happened? She has to stand just next to me. When the bus moved, she'll almost fall down with the baby. Oh, I told her, up to Imphal, I don't want to stand. What do I do? If this lady keep on standing and no one is getting down, it is full, I'm going to lose my chair. So an idea came to my mind. The baby is very cute, very clean. She's holding an apple. I'll tell the lady, hey sister, I'll help you. I'll carry your baby. Then if the baby is not crying, she'll sit on my lap and I'll not lose my chair. And that lady will still stand. You got my point? Right?
Yes.
So when I got the child, she was smiling and she was later on sleeping on my lap. And I did not lose my chair. The woman was still standing. Now, why do I carry that baby? Tell me. Because I love that woman very much, or I'm very good and honest person?
You don't want to sacrifice the
My chair.
I want to lose his chair.
Yeah. I was so convenient to sit in a chair. Why should I give my chair? So I play some tactics. You know, that lady was getting down again before reaching Imphal. She said, Oza, Yam nungaire. Oh, thank you so much. See, she appreciated me. That is convenient commitment. People thought that I'm doing very well. I don't give my chair. If I give my chair, no one may say like that, will look at me. I carry a baby. I love babies. Cute baby sleeping on my lap. And up to some kilometers. I have very good nap. That's exactly what happened. People are working very hard in the church. Tell them you go back to this place, that place. Go and transfer to this side, Tripura, South Tripura. Go and transfer to Arunachal boundary. Then you'll see whether they are really, convenient again. Serving God up to our convenient level only will never make us, satisfied, or will never be at peace. This young man, look at it. When they started talking, he said, "Teacher, what can I do to inherit eternal life?" Jesus said, "Why did you call me good? There is only one good, that is God. You know the commandments, all the 6 commandments. What were the 6 commandments? What need not to be done? The easiest one." He said, "I have done all these things." What did Jesus say? He looked at him and said, "One thing you lacked." The one thing was, in fact, 6 things. What happened? His face became dark and run away. Left. You know that is it. He was very handmade, very rich, young man. If such type of people come to your church and say, "Oh, I want to be a member," oh, you'll be so happy, building chairman, immediately, right? Mission treasurer or something. It was so convenient for him to be rich and to be there, to remain there and very good, what do you call it, to have very good name. Convenient. Maybe we'll take this subject little later. I told you about this. Cover up or conflicting commitment. You might have seen somewhere, some places, people who are already working in the ministry, people who had gone and got their theological degrees, leaving behind everything and doing what they wanted to do. I know a guy who was doing, who passed, BD, maybe our age mate, maybe our contemporary, like our contemporary. He had gone back and he was doing timber business. Then I asked some friends in Nagaland, what happened to that friend? He said, "Oh, theology to piggery, piggery fell, piggery to timbery." Very beautiful words came out.
Timber.
Yeah, so it has to be timber. He meant timber business. When your commitment, when you have some conflicting thought and mind in following Jesus Christ, what you have to do is you have to check yourself. The motive is very, very important. We said it is love. What is the driving force for a Christian leader, to follow Jesus Christ faithfully? The driving force is important. The motivator is important. No salary will be tempting, I can tell you. No salary will be tempting. Position may be good, no money will be that much. No pleasures, no comforts. Trying to be comfortable where it's not comfortable. That is what we do. The motive is there. If the motive is wrong, someday that will come out. The motive is going to be uncoverable, someday. Forfeiting the faith and the call. The example what I give here is Matthew 26, 15 and 16 is about Judas. You know, in the after the World War II, God was very good to America, I'll say. And God had given 3 good preachers to America. The first one was Templeton. I just could not remember the first name.
Templeton.
Yeah. Can you tell me?
Chuck.
Sorry?
Chuck Templeton.
Spelling?
CUK.
And Chuck Templeton, correct. Chuck Templeton was 27 years old, and he was the most powerful preacher after independence. After World War II. When he organized crusades, all this stadium will be full. #1 speaker. The second man was just 25 years old. What was his name? Yeah, we'll see tomorrow. The slide. It's not coming to my mind. The third one was Billy Graham. And the first man, Chuck Templeton, you can see in the in the net also you find out his name. Very, very famous, a good friend of Oswald J. Smith. The pastor, the famous pastor of People's Church in Toronto. This man was so powerful. What happened was that was the time, when in USA, TV started blooming, and the anchors, the announcers become very, very, famous. He was tempted to be an anchor of TV. The most powerful preacher in America wanted to be, what do we call it? TV anchor. So he called all his team members and say, I'm going to leave the ministry and I'm going for a TV anchor. The team members were shocked. You can't do that. We have so many other programs waiting for you. He said, no, I cannot do it. When he resigned his preaching ministry, newspaper will write so many things. Shocking, Chuck Templeton resigned from, preaching ministry and joined, some commercial TV or something. But he was not successful. No one saw him again after some time. After many years, when Oswald J. Smith died in Toronto, a lot of people come together. That day in the funeral, some people remember Chuck Templeton coming there. So everyone was excited. That is Chuck Templeton. That is Chuck Templeton. Give him time to preach, they say. He was such a well-known preacher, so they give him some time. You know what he said? I love and respect my friend Oswald Smith very much because he kept the faith till his death, whereas I have forfeited my faith. No one can say amen. That's all he preached. That's all he said. After that, people could not see him again. When your commitment is all the time conflicting with money or something else, fame or whatever it is, you know, it will someday bring disaster. That is very, very risky. Many people serve God because they thought that this will be a source of money. They thought that they'll be able to get some money. Getting money is much more difficult nowadays because of FCRA rule being amended last 20th September. Not only that, even, you know, personal money being sent from foreign countries are restricted. So if our commitment is for something else, not serving God, that thing will come out someday, sooner or later. And that's very, very risky. It is very, very dangerous. Judas had ended terribly. Many preachers and many Christian workers ended very terribly. So this is the fourth one or the fifth one?
Fourth one.
Fourth one.
Fifth one. No, fifth one.
I think it's fifth one, no?
Fifth one, yes, sir.
Because I'm going to talk about seventh. Now let's go quickly so that we'll finish, you know, on time. Today I'm not going to give you a chance to talk. I'm going to talk. Okay, tomorrow maybe you should talk because this is so important. Costly commitment. Jesus paid the price with his life. He paid it all with his life. And we are supposed to pay the cost. So, like Philippians, 2:5, it is emptying self. Not just emptying once, but you have to re-empty again and again yourself. This is important. When you need to recharge your battery again and again, in the ministry, we have to re-empty ourselves again and again so that the Spirit of God would come in there. The chart, I'm not able to show you today. So we are sent as God sent his Son to us. How was he sent? I have told you right in the beginning how Jesus was sent. You remember? Why he was poorest of the poor. Do you remember? He was poorest of the poor. You remember what we say?
Yes, sir.
Please keep that in mind so that we will not go back there again and again. There is one small booklet written by Pastor R. Mark. He was in the IAS. Earlier he was IRS. Then he became an IAS. Then God called him and he left the IAS. So he wrote a notebook, a small book, Why I Left the IAS. Why God's call is more important. What happened was, Sanjeev Reddy was the president of India. His first resignation from the IAS, he rejected. A fine IAS officer. Among the Mar community, the first MSCC, the first lawyer, then the first IAS. I belong to Mar tribe, and he was the first IAS officer. He was from very poor background, cleaning somebody's nalas, drain, and studying himself, supporting self. Then he wrote a small book, It Pays to Lose. He's very, very poor. It pays to lose, he put it. Jesus lose everything. He had lost everything because of that. You know, we are what we are today. The model. When you look at that Bible verse of John 20:21, Jesus said, "Peace be unto you." Do you memorize that one? He said, "As my Father sent me, even so sent I you." Okay, it's beautiful. How did my Father send me? We have already said he was the poorest of the poor. Gabriel has to come down from heaven to talk to Mary, okay, to borrow an we said. No place to live, no place to lay his head. When the teacher wanted, that lawyer wanted to come and follow, he said, "Jesus, teacher, I want to follow." Jesus said, look at him and say, "Look at the foxes, they have holes. Look at the birds, they have nest. But the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." That was the truth. He was living in some different houses, during 3.5 years of his ministry. He lost everything, but the price that has come to so many people is enormous. The way I saw this, how I visualize, I don't know whether you can see me. I want to show you. When Jesus said, "Peace be unto you," okay, he was stretching his hand like this, okay. He stretched his hands like this, showing them the nail marks on his hands, the stripes in his body, and the scars in his face with the thorn of crown. Then the side that was pierced through a spear. He was showing his hand like this. Look at me. This is exactly the way my Father sent me. So I also send you like this. See how powerful it is. That is costly commitment. This is how my Father had sent me. Look at the pains I have gone through, the scars that I have gone through. Look at the way I was humiliated. Look at the way I was tortured. Look this is the way my Father sent me. And I send you exactly like this. See, that is why I call it costly commitment. Anyway, this is from my teacher. He said costly commitment. He put that verse. This is exactly, but when I read it, it came to me like that. In 1992, there was a church leaders meeting in Ernakulam, Kochi in Kerala, October 1992. When we reached the place, they have given us a file folder, beautiful one. And in that folder, below there they printed, "As my Father sent me, even so sent I you." It was so beautiful. It struck me from that day, October, I don't remember the day, 1992. Look at me, this is the way my Father sent me. I send you exactly like this. The cost has to be paid. It is not just giving what we have, not just giving part of what we have, but it is giving life. If we are willing to give life, everything is already paid. When we commit to God, we have to truly surrender. That's why I'm putting here. This does not just involve giving up our time and turning away from the temptation. It also means actively submitting ourselves to Him. Intentionally and actively submitting ourselves to Him. That is something which is very, very important. Like that man I told you, that Pastor Armar, when he was a student in a village very far from Chuchanpur, those days there were lantern, what we call it lalteen. Lantern is turned into, lalteen, okay? Kettle turned into ketli, so something like that. So he was so poor during his high school days. He told me he did not have learned lantern to read his subjects. So I was having a program in Dimapur. I came back by train, and in Dipu he entered in that compartment. I call him, Uncle, you come here. Let us sit together. Up to Guwahati, I say. He said, my seat number is this. If somebody come, what do? I said, no, I'll request them to exchange with you because I want to talk to you, I say. So I asked him, people told me about your difficulties. If you don't mind, I'm going to ask you something. But if you don't want to tell, if it is just between you and God, that's okay, I say. Then he said, ask me. During your high school days, they said, you are the one who do not have lantern. How do you read in the night, I said. He said, people know that I was very poor in a village called Perjol. All my friends, those, he said. Some of them are IFS, some of them are IAS, some of them are pastor. They all have lantern and I did not have lantern. So people love me so much when they kill a cow or a bull in the village. They said, give the fat to Rose Hanglin. No? His name, Armar, they call it. Give the fat to Armar because he has no lantern. So what I do is, he say, I put some cotton together, tied it, then I put inside that fat of a cow, and I make like a candle, he said. I put it like this, strengthen it, squeeze it, then there will be the cotton here. So I'll read my books with that. But when the cotton is burning down, the fat will always melt, he said. And I have to squeeze again and put together so many times every night. That's why my hands are abnormal, he said. Hardened and dark and black, he said. So many years it was like that, he told me. He got first class, class 10, and then in IST, Intermediate Science, first class. BSc, he support himself all with scholarship, merit scholarship, then IAS. And if you go and look at him, he's very poor. I respect him when Dr. Ben.Th and we were in All Tripura Pastor Conference in 1982, December. I was not a preacher, I was just, helping in the physical arrangement, and Dr. Ben.Th was the speaker. He told the pastors, Tripura pastors, I have a very good friend, I want to tell you about him, he said. Do you want to listen? And all the pastors said, yes, we would like to know who is your good friend. He said his name is Armar. He came out of very poor family background. He was in the Indian Revenue Service, IRS. He said that is not my type. He wrote the IAS and then he got through. Then when he was in Andhra Pradesh, those days it was ambassador car. He never opened the car's door also. People will open his door because he was an IAS officer. Close the door of the car. They'll carry his suitcase, briefcase, all the time. But then one day God called him. He left the job, but then the president of India at the time, Sanjeev Reddy, did not accept his resignation. Again, he submitted. Finally, he said, he submitted, as president accepted the second request. So he had gone to among the Mikirs, Karbi, as missionaries. The one who sit in a car, who will never even open the car door or close, when he had gone to Mikir area as missionary, full of jungle with malaria, a lot of malaria health issues, he could not afford to have a new bicycle, so he bought a second-hand bicycle, he said. All the pastors in Tripura are quiet. That is how people love Jesus. That is how people committed their life. All the pastors in Tripura, if you are committed like him, there will be change in the history of Tripura Church, he challenged them. Commitment is expensive, the price we have to pay. He is not earning anything out of that. But everyone who hear his story were blessed. His testimony had blessed me so much. I read his story why I left the IS in 1982. And it pays to lose. I read again in 1982. It challenged me so much. I was just beginning in my ministry. If people who are in the IS and suffer like this, who am I said. If they pay the price like that, who am I that I should go for comfort? If Jesus wanted me to go through this way, fine. That's how he became a blessing to many young people those days, including me. That is the cost people pay. Jesus said, pay, people pay. This is the way my Father sent me. As my Father sent me, even so send I you. That is powerful. The more you lose, the more you'll become a blessing to other people. He promised to Abraham, you will be a blessing. Whenever people hear about your story, if your commitment is costly commitment, I tell you, people will be blessed. When young people hear about your story, if your commitment is extremely costly, when people listen to your story, people will weep. That is what it happened. You will be such a powerful itself. Your face alone will become, powerhouse. When Dr. Richard Ombran came to Chennai many years ago, Culture for Christ, okay? When he was pushed in the church by wheelchair. One pastor told me, as soon as I saw him from the distance entering the door through a wheelchair, I was moved, and spirit, lifted me up by the Spirit, he said. Just by the way looking at the scars when they look at him, the wheelchair that they look at him, he was no longer, he could no longer stand before people. People wept. People received revival. He did not speak much. What he spoke must be, nothing in comparison with many young people speaking nowadays. But the life which he had led was so costly. Whoever saw him, whoever met him, whoever read his story, they'll be in tears. Not only that, they'll be revived. That is what Abraham was promised. You will be a blessing. Even if people wanted to put you down, even if people to pull you down, they will not succeed because God is going to be with you. Now we have about 7 minutes. We'll continue tomorrow with the final one. I have not yet told you. With, convenient commitment versus that last commitment, which I saw it through experience. I'm going to tell you tomorrow. But now I wanted to open a time for comment on those 6, right? We have talked about 6 commitment, right?
Yes.
Any comment, or where do you feel you are there right now in those 6 levels of commitment? Where do you find yourself? Tell me very honestly. Then I'll tell you what pastors, 80 pastors came. They told me. I'll tell you only after you tell me where you are. Where do you think you are there? Over to you. Yes. Where do you think you are there in those 6 one? I have not talked about the 7th one. Tell me. Are you in the costly commitment?
Somehow I
Or are you still calculative commitment? Or intellectual commitment? Tell me.
So for me, I would like to choose that intellectual commitment.
Intellectual commitment. Okay.
Yeah.
Somebody else? Ring? Ring is not there?
I'm here, sir.
Oh, tell me, where are you? Where do you think you are there?
Emotional commitment, sir.
Emotional commitment. So
Yeah.
you are just like Peter, huh?
I changed now.
Peter has
Yeah.
deceptive mind, okay?
Jack, where do you think you are there?
I was in 6, sir.
6, huh?
Costly commitment, yes.
Costly commitment. Oh, you have reached so far. That's wonderful.
Yes, actually, I had completed my degree in commerce, but at the last semester, at the last final year, I have changed my mind and God called me. So as I read John 12:24, if you follow me, my Father will honor you. That's the verse said.
Wonderful.
So,
Very good.
Yeah, that's
these levels, sometimes, you go up to that, sometimes you go down there, it is also fluctuating that you need to know, okay?
yeah.
When we face a lot of problems, then we thought, we started calculating, my friends had got like that, my friends, they're retiring and they have done all this. Even some of my friends' retirement salary, I'm not getting a full-time salary. All those things, calculation.
Yes, sir.
It is fluctuating also.
Yes, sir.
Sulumla is not there, right?
Yes, I'm here, sir.
Oh, you're hiding. I didn't see you. Tell me, where are you?
Well,
1, 2. Where are you now? In those 6 levels of commitment we talk about. Where do you think you are right now?
sir, I think I have reached the last one, but not fully yet.
Not fully yet. Okay.
Up.
Don't fall down again. Okay, from down there. Mangi Babu, where are you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. Yes.
Where do you think you are there?
Sometimes it is going up. Sometimes it comes in our mind that we love to have this convenient commitment. Then sometimes calculative. But I have reached up to this 6 also. the sixth
Acha.
one.
Very good. Very good. Johnny, you are keeping
Fluctuation is
quiet.
there.
Okay, thank you. Johnny, you are keeping quiet.
Emotional commitment, just like brother, and intellectual commitment, calculative commitment, conflicting commitment. Sometimes the last one.
Oh, you are so in so many levels. Your life will be terrible then. You know, will you believe me if I tell you, in one of the pastors' camp, for more than 80 pastors, I asked them to honestly tell me who they are, and they all told me that they are in convenient commitment level only. Very surprising, you know. That is, people are struggling because there are pastors who could not send their children and they have to stop their children to school. And they don't know what to do, whether they're doing right or wrong. Then some of them said they have kept with some distant relative and they are a problem. You know, they are struggling. Life is very, very difficult. So you think about this tonight, and tomorrow we'll talk about the last level of commitment. And let's see. Then also we'll talk about comparing some of this commitment. Then I'm sure you'll be able to fully understand my intention of, building leadership levels commitment. We're trying to build our commitment level to know where we are and from here, where do we go? What step do we need to take, from here? Okay. So
Yes,
keep praying and think about this. Tomorrow we'll talk about the final one, then also comparison, so that will be the culmination of our class. Tomorrow I'll be ending my time for the time, at least for some time. Okay. So
Okay.
now it's already 3.
Yes, sir.